Hi y'all, this is Miss MK with Boys and Girls Club, and today I'm going to teach you how to make veggie eggheads. So this is actually a really good activity for kids or even adults who are starting to get into gardening and want a cool, fun way to get that process going. So what you're going to need are some eggshells, some soil, some seeds, a little bit of water, and definitely some markers because we're going to be able to decorate this, which is pretty cool. So when it comes to eggshells, you're probably going to want to have more than one on hand just in case one of them breaks because eggshells are very finicky. They're very thin, easy to break, as you've probably noticed from cooking and whatnot. Make sure that when you're using eggs as well, that you don't just toss out the yolks and the whites, use them for something and just keep the shells that are left behind. What you'll end up doing is you will go ahead and crack your eggs against a table or a hard surface, but try and make sure that you go only around the top of one of the sides so that way it creates that nice kind of rounded opening and you still have the majority of your shell to use. What's also very important to know is that when people talk about eggs having germs and things like that on them, that's usually on the outside of the shell. So it's most important to make sure that your shells are cleaned out using soap and water, as well as baking them in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, just to make sure that all those extra germs are killed off and the shells are dried out completely. And it's going to go for about maybe 30 minutes when you put them in the oven, and then they should be nice and dry and ready to go. And so when they're ready, what you're going to do is you will take your eggshell. I've already started one, but I'm going to go ahead and use some markers to decorate the outside. And you can do whatever you want on the outsides. It can be a cool little design, a funny face, something that's going to make you interested and happy to see it most days is something that I would recommend. So for mine, I made a really happy face for mine because I find plants very enjoyable, so it makes me happy to see them. And so also recommending that you use permanent markers on these if you have them on hand, because you can use washable markers, but the ink comes off pretty easily. So then what you're going to do next is you're going to take your soil, might use a spoon since it's one of the easiest parts, or one of the easiest mechanisms for this opening since it's pretty small. You're going to go ahead and fill the top. You're going to fill it to the top, as close to the top as you can. And you'll do it over the bowl so that way you can make sure and try not to get dirt everywhere, because it's not always the funnest thing to clean up, but that's okay. Okay, so we have our dirt filled to the very top. Let me take that little stick out there. And I'm going to plant basil, which is an herb that you often use for when you use green plants in cooking. Not exactly a vegetable, but usually a lot of leafy greens that you may see, and they're often used as spices and toppings and whatnot. So I made a small little extra hole to make sure that those seeds get down in there, and I'm going to fill the rest of this to the top with some soil to make sure that it's nice and covered. And remember, we don't want to press down on this too much, or else the seeds could get a little too compact and they don't have a lot of room for their roots to grow out. And then, set that down for just a second. It doesn't need a whole lot of water, so I'm just going to use, stick my fingers on the inside here of my water bottle and just give it a couple drops of water. It's not going to need very much because it's in a very small space. Just enough to get the soil moist and we'll be good to go. And there you go. Then you can go ahead and put them back in your egg carton if you want to, and wait for your veggie egghead to start to sprout. Once it does, you'll be able to crack the bottom of your eggshell and either put your eggshell in a container or take it outside, so that way your plant can grow fully. And the eggshell won't harm your seed, as calcium actually helps plants grow, and calcium is in your eggshell. So I hope you had fun with making this cool little project, and I'm excited to see, if your plants grow real well. Happy planting!